Hello, my name is Raj Kumar. I'm the founding Vice Chancellor of OP Jindal Global University. First of all, I would like to congratulate all the organizers of the Association of Test Publishers 2020 Global Virtual Conference. I wish we could all meet in a different situation, more in person, but given the extraordinary situation that all of us are facing in the world today, the idea of a global virtual conference of the Association of Test Publishers is a very good, what you call a point of engagement in which we can come together to discuss some important issues. And of course, the world of assessment has changed quite remarkably and quite dramatically. In fact, as we speak, the very framework of examination, assessment, testing, grading, and even certification, all these aspects are being debated, discussed, widely contested. In India, for example, this issues has assumed significant proportions with regard to the issues that are being discussed at the highest level. We've had the Supreme Court of India even intervening about issues relating to assessment. You can only imagine how important the issue of assessment is and is forming the center stage in the global discourse. What I want to do today is to identify 5 major issues relating to assessment and talk a bit about each one of them. First, I would like to say that the importance of assessment in any form. That's the question of the very existence of assessment. All of us in education feel that there is a very important relationship between the objectives of study and the outcome of the study being measured through any form of assessment. One can only imagine the goal of education is also to be able to have the educational experience leading to some learning outcomes, and the only way by which learning outcomes can be measured is through a form of assessment. So in some ways, the importance of assessment cannot be underestimated, and I think it is only fair to say that universities, educational institutions, organizations, all of them are dependent upon assessment forming a most important part of their own institutional existence and institutional evolution. The second aspect of the whole framework of assessment is that what are the changing aspects of assessment that are dominating today's discourse? The National Education Policy 2020 in India has extensively talked about assessment at all stages, be it in the context of schools, colleges, universities. People have used the words such as formative assessment, summative assessment, continuous assessment, but assessment in any form connected to the fulfillment of the goals of education. Universities are constantly trying to innovate, and from the time when assessment was something that happens at the end of the examination or at the end of the academic year or at the end of the semester in the form of an examination, assessment has also become more continuous and constantly evolving through the objective of measuring learning outcomes all through the academic year, all through the semester as well. It's also important to recognize that any form of continuous assessment is also based upon the kind of pedagogical interventions in relation to teaching that happens within a college or a university. And that's also an important point to be mentioned, is that the new changes in the assessment regime that is also defined by the kind of innovations that are happening in the world of assessment. The third aspect of assessment is something which I think is very central to the Indian higher education establishment in particular, but also globally as well, which is about how do institutions select students for their entry into the institutions, be it the global assessment regimes in the form of, let's say, GRE and GMAT and LSAT and SAT and ACT, or the national level assessment regimes that may be conducted by many agencies within India. The idea is one needs to have an entrance examination that goes beyond what different institutions might have used when it comes to developing, let's say, eligibility criteria. Now, the reason the entrance examination assessment becomes important in India is that Indian, let's say, school education system is also very diversified. And of course, the global education system is also equally diversified. So the very objective of having an independent, autonomous, transparent entrance examination system in admission to any college or university, the purpose of that assessment is actually to develop a level playing field. A level playing field in which students who come from different school boards, for example, people who come from different experiences, who have different, let's say, assessment regimes at their schools or colleges or universities, particularly when they are going for master's education, or for that matter, those who are going for undergrad education, coming from different school systems, be it international baccalaureate or Central Board of Secondary Education in India, or other forms of board examinations. How do we ensure that a level playing field is created so that all those students who ultimately compete for, let's say, different colleges and universities, how can they be treated equally so that the assessment is based upon some fair standards? That is why assessment at that level, particularly for admission into the entrance examination, is going to be critical. And of course, the fifth aspect of that, of what I wanted to talk to you is about the issues surrounding transparency and integrity in the entire process. Now, this is of course extremely critical because given the fact that in a country like India, where large number of students are competing for a relatively smaller number of seats available in the leading institutions, and in any case, the smaller number of seats available for any institution, there is a huge demand-supply problem. And so the only way by which any form of intervention is possible in the demand-supply issue is we have more institutions and more number of seats available, which has huge policy dimensions as well. So in the interim, if we were to select students through a transparent process and to be able to select them on the basis of assessment, the assessment becomes so critical. Assessment is almost central to the entire admissions process. So I want to conclude by saying that the next level of assessment mechanisms and methods are going to be based upon these 5 principles that I have just outlined. I also want to take a moment to identify the 5 new areas in which the future of assessment is going to depend upon. That is based upon the trends that are emerging in the field of assessment. First, the collaboration between the university and the test preparing and test agency, in this case, the Association of Test Publishers, but also other individual assessment. What kind of collaborations are possible between the education institution on the one hand and the testing agency on the other? The second is the idea of independent testing, meaning that colleges and universities should not be involved in preparation of questions, organization of test centers, developing logistics and other preparation and planning. In fact, I've always maintained that universities should not be involved in doing any form of entrance examinations. These tasks should be assigned to independent agencies and organizations such as the Association of Test Publications, but also Pearson VUE, for example. Those type of organizations are best suited to handle it. In fact, we have been working very closely with the Pearson VUE for over a decade, and we've had a fantastic relationship in keeping the Pearson VUE as the framework for our LSAT, which is conducted, as you know, by Pearson VUE in India in partnership with the Law School Admission Council, who are basically the organization which actually is involved in the testing itself. We also do what is known as JSAT, which again Pearson VUE does it, but that's for admission to other schools at JGU. The reason I wanted to highlight this model is that it's important for involving independent testing agencies to take care of the entire logistics, planning, preparation, as well as questions and of course ultimately conducting of examinations. Universities are not in a position to do this exercise effectively, and as we have seen time and again, this type of work should be best assigned to independent organizations. The third thing which I want to share there is that beyond the point about innovation, we need to also become more flexible when it comes to the mode of assessment. Right now, there are broadly 3 ways by which examinations are done, particularly entrance examinations, where they are held in large centers physically. The physical space of a center is used. That's more traditional model of entrance examinations. Even today, barring particularly during the pre-COVID situation, examinations have been conducted in that manner. Of course, the second model is the CBT, the computer-based testing, where testing centers are used in which more and more people will actually physically go into a center and take the test. Now, of course, during COVID, both these ways of conducting examinations and pursuing assessments have come under serious challenge. I think it is only fair to say that the Government of India's rules and regulations, social distancing norms, including the way in which we can't have physical engagement of the kind that we are used to, a new form of assessment, at least in the Indian context, has emerged and emerged with greater degree of acceptability, which is the artificial intelligence enabled remote proctored model of examination and assessment. We have been very successful in using the AI enabled or home proctored / remote proctored examination. We were able to successfully conduct the examination called the LSAT India examination in partnership with the Pearson VUE. We have been doing the same type of examination for JSAT, again AI enabled and remote proctored examination. Now, of course, like every examination and assessment model, the AI enabled and remote proctored examination model has also been questioned by many. There have been challenges in relation to its efficacy, its effectiveness, its ability to ensure transparency and integrity in the process, its ability to ensure that there is no cheating. All those issues are common to all forms of assessment. Of course, given the fact that AI enabled is not directly physically proctored, there are more questions raised. But let me tell you, universities around the world have been experimenting with this model, not only for entrance examination, for a whole range of online education programs, for certification processes, as well as their own internal examination processes, in which global campuses have been experimenting it in Australia, United States, Europe, and other parts of the world. It is now time for India, albeit the fact that this has been, let's say, currently infused due to the COVID-19 global pandemic crisis. It's time in India for us to embrace this model of assessment in all its forms and manifestations. We need to vigorously promote the AI-enabled and remote proctored examination, particularly when social distancing norms are in vogue, and any form of physical examination. In fact, while I appreciate the government's intention to conduct the JEE and NEET and other forms of examination, the fact is, even the government knows that doing these examinations in a physical manner creates huge risks associated with COVID-19, particularly when we know for sure across different states of India, the COVID-19 crisis is only expanding and increasing, and more cases are coming to the forefront. Now, if only we had an effective AI-enabled remote proctored examination and assessment model that will withstand the scrutiny of transparency and integrity, and also risk of cheating, to be able to conduct it in a large scale manner, because at the end of the day we are a relatively small university, and for us to have been able to conduct LSAT and JSAT exam successfully is one thing, but imagine we are looking at a scale in which millions of people have to take the test. To what extent the testing agencies such as Pearson VUE, or for that matter the consortium of the Association of Test Publications, if all of you, do you have the capability, the capacity, the bandwidth to be able to conduct large scale tests in AI enabled and remote proctored format? That takes me to the next point, where we need greater innovations, including technological and data analytics, as well as AI based interventions to take the assessment as well as examination mode to the next level. It's important for us not to see this as a temporary measure that has been caused due to the COVID-19 crisis. I strongly believe that there is a very powerful case of promoting AI-enabled remote proctored examination model system across the country for various forms of assessment. This can significantly reduce, let's say, the physical aspect of conducting the test, which involves logistics and physical infrastructure and resources. It also reduces the risk of potential integrity issues even when we are dependent upon individuals at various levels. The third is it also can create a more level playing field. However, the other challenge with regard to AI enabled, and we have to talk about it, is the question of infrastructure availability in the form of, let's say, internet bandwidth, electricity with regard to uninterrupted electricity, and also availability of the equipment. Now, in a poor country like India, these are access issues, and the digital divide continues to be a challenge when it comes to effective ways of using assessment mechanisms in the form of AI-enabled and remote proctored examination and assessment. I know that the Association of Test Publications may not be the best forum for you to address these issues. These involve significant resource implications from a policy standpoint. I have been the national education policy as well as the Prime Minister's e-Vidya program and other types of public policy initiatives at the national level is specifically intended to advance these issues, including improving the data and connectivity issues, the bandwidth and internet access and Wi-Fi issues, and also creating better IT infrastructure so that individual homes are better empowered to be able to actually have online education. In fact, while we talk about online education, I must say that there is a new set of online education, including distance and distance learning online learning and online education rules and regulations in the form of a gazette notification that has been brought out by the University Grants Commission and Ministry of Human Resource Development a few days ago. An equally important measure has to be based upon our ability to improve our IT infrastructure. Online education cannot happen without we having a clear understanding of online assessment, online examination, online mechanisms for assessment. And that cannot happen without we having a robust online education and online assessment infrastructure in the form of IT infrastructure, bandwidth capability, Wi-Fi enabled ecosystem, effective equipment that can actually deliver these assessment frameworks into the homes of people. Now, I want to end by saying that the ATP, the Association of Testing Publications Virtual Global Conference 2020, is a very important forum in which such issues can be discussed and debated, and see what you as an organization can contribute to the discourse surrounding these issues. with over 45,000 universities, colleges in India, with over 1,000 universities in India, with nearly 30 million people part of the higher education system, the opportunities that are available for promoting different forms of assessment innovation, including AI-enabled and remote proctored examination and assessment at the level of entrance examination, but also at the level of examinations and assessment that happens within the university, is a huge opportunity that is waiting to be exploited to a significant manner. But this opportunity can be effectively exploited if you are all prepared to invest as well. It's important for you to understand the diversity of the Indian higher education system. It's important for you to be able to partner with public institutions which may not be able to afford as much. It's important for you to be able to push the boundaries of creativity and innovation in public and private institutions. It's important for you to understand the concerns expressed by the policy makers, including the people who are in the higher education regulatory bodies. It's important for you to recognize the aspirations of the students and the goals and institutional expectations of the universities and the colleges and the higher education institutions in general. Once you develop a multi-stakeholder consensus model in which the goals of assessment that you have thought about and the goals of examination and assessment and mechanisms that you have come to put in place is aligned with the expectations of the institutions, the government agencies, the regulatory bodies, the students and the parents and others who are involved in higher education system, you will be better positioned to be able to make these innovations in relation to assessment regime far more effective and far more impactful. With those words, I would like to once again congratulate the Association of Testing Publishing and Pearson VUE, who has been our partner for organizing and hosting this conference. Best wishes.